like to move to very specific business insights, because you said that you also accompany clients that want to do business with China. And some of our audience, of course, are also companies that are interested in, do you have any tips for them? What are your experiences in cooperating with Chinese partners or clients from the intercultural perspective, or like the cooperation per se perspective? What factors lead to success for your clients or for you, and or what were lessons learned?
I think that a lot of cooperation in China needs to be done with a lot of patience and with an open mind. Mm-hmm. Remember that if you're cooperating with a Chinese company that does not have extensive international operations, mm-hmm. they will not necessarily be aware of perhaps some of the things that you're trying to stress, and vice versa. So in terms of the communication process, I would suggest that everything is made very clear in terms of what you actually mean. China is one of the few places where I've seen so many people ask themselves, what exactly do you mean after they finish saying something? Because there's a lot of vague expressions entrenched into the language. But the other way around, also, you must understand that it's equally confusing for the Chinese side. You might think that you're saying something very clearly, but it might not make sense to them. So this is something that you have to, for example, when you speak about certain sort of procedures in Europe that have to be done step by step, things like the extent to which due diligence probes into sort of the practices of a company. This is something that I've had difficulty explaining to the Chinese side sometimes. In terms of the steps that you take when cooperating with China, if it's your first time doing this, keep in mind that everything starts with a lot of goodwill and often big promises. I would always take big promises with sort of a grain of salt, and keep in mind that this is more an expression of goodwill rather than a literal sort of message that they want to send to you. All things here often start with an MOU, and this is something that's done with usually in a public way, perhaps with gathering a small audience, with pictures for social media and all of that. This is something that's normal. It's just the first step before establishing cooperation, really. So that's something that I would advise the European side to do without thinking too much about it. It's non-binding, and it's something that facilitates things. Then in terms of the reliability of the partners that you select, I would suggest that you take the time to research them properly, and to perhaps try and do a couple of small transactions or deals with them first. This is just because China is huge and you have no idea who exactly you're dealing with on your end. Of course, it's the same for them as well. So I would suggest that you make sure there is a basis on which you can build trust for further cooperation. In terms of the way that negotiations are done with China, I would say that the Chinese side will always try to sort of push forward whatever they want to get out of the negotiations, even if sometimes they say, okay, we can talk about it later, or okay, we can sort of rethink this. Usually this means that they will try again and push whatever they want to get out of the deal. So I would say that if there's something you really insist on and that's a red line for you, you make very clear that this is a red line and this will not change. Perhaps the first time you say this, they might not even believe you at all. They might just think, okay, we'll still talk about it later. But it's something that I would say you should be very sort of clear on where you draw your red lines, at least in your mind or in the negotiation process, because it's different when you work with the US, for instance. Then you can say clearly, look, we can't touch these clauses in the contract, and they know this is what you mean. It's not the same here. And also, I would say that it's good to make use of the sources of support that the Chinese system can offer. Sometimes it might be a provincial government that wants to internationalize one of its cities. They might have, for instance, office space that's available essentially on the cheap, or they might have ways to help you promote your company, because for them, this is something that gives them essentially extra points in terms of their professional career and development, because they did something for their city or province, and it helps you. And this is something that's done very much for pragmatic purposes. Some people that come here tend to think of these things in more political terms. I don't think they're as political. I think it's a matter of an official or a department that is chasing a certain sort of target, or it's somebody that's trying to get a promotion and bring in more companies. And on the side of this, you can get a benefit for your own company. As a business, you don't get hurt if an official gets promoted internally. And that doesn't change anything politically either, because somebody will get that promotion, whether it's this guy or that guy, makes no difference to anybody. So I would say that as a business, you should make use of these opportunities and understand them well. Of course, to find where they are, it's always good to have a person on your team or a consultant or somebody that works closely with you and is able to explain to you where these opportunities or small sort of loopholes or cracks are, so that you can navigate them as efficiently as possible.
Okay, thank you very much. I strongly agree also from my own perspective that this is like really the base for being successful in China, not taking everything at face value and seeing how you can get around it or what it actually means. Maybe you already answered it, but I will still ask. So if you think back, what were the biggest challenges and mistakes you made at the beginning when you came to China? Or what would be helpful to know from the beginning? I'm thinking of companies who are thinking to go there now.
I think that, well, it depends on whether you're thinking of it as a business or as a person. I think I'll maybe mention a couple of sentences for both. If you are a business, especially and if you're trying to sell something, which is most often the case, I would say that thinking that you can do a lot of the work within China yourself, or that it's efficient for you to do it. Maybe you can do it, but it's not nearly as efficient as making use of the resources that local partners have. Or if you're selling a product, getting an agreement done with a big e-commerce platform. This is something that the effect that this can have in terms of the increase of sales you get is going to be so much larger than you opening 50 offices here. You just cannot do this yourself, because there are existing huge structures that can bring you revenue, which is enormous. And I would say that you would do good to work with them as a company. A lot of the time when companies come here, they just start with the question of, okay, so let's see, can we register a WOFE, that's a wholly foreign owned company, representative office, hire people, and they'll do A, B, and C. You can, but unless you're a huge company that can do everything in-house, I don't think it's worth it. I think it's worth making use of local resources and registering a small entity. And then if you expand one day, congratulations, you can open your mega office and take it from there. But that's what I think you should do as a smaller entity. And then as a person, I would say that if you come to China, you should be open to trying new things and exploring new opportunities. Things here can happen. They happen very fast, and sometimes they go in ways that you haven't even imagined they could. There's not as many sort of people here that go the traditional way. Even if you look at the Chinese themselves, the young generation, my younger friends here, maybe they have one day job and one side hustle, and then they also help their friend's company with their sales, and maybe they do a stream online to sell something, and on their WeChat maybe they have a passion for, I don't know, maybe bags or something, and then they're posting new bags that they got as a delivery and reselling them for profit. They have so many side hustles, to use the perhaps I think it's a US term probably. But I think this is something that you should keep an open mind to, because especially as a foreigner here, there's a lot of places that still require international cooperation, and not nearly enough foreigners per person to get all of this done. So I'd say that you could get a lot more opportunities than you ever imagined.
Wow, that's a nice outlook. Thank you very much for that.